Alexa, turn on my light. Hey everybody, this is Dwight Icenhower. I want to invite you to tune in to the ETA Files. We hope to see you there, but right now, I'm going back to bed. Alexa, turn off my light.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this week on ETA Files. I tell you what, I cannot wait to talk to this guy. I've known him probably since about the first day I started in this business, and he is something special. He is the first ultimate champion to be on ETA Files. Please welcome my good buddy, the one and only Dwight Icenhower. How you doing, man?
RP, how are you, man? Doing great. We're here in sunny Florida. It's a little cool right now for Florida, but it's good, you know.
I'm sure we're going through this cold spell nationwide. How cold is cool down there?
60, man. It's freezing. It's freezing.
Oh, God bless you. Hey, you live in a town called Winter Haven, you said. Man, that sounds like a retirement community or something.
It does. Well, it's really not. It's a little town. Well, not a little town. It's in between Tampa and Orlando. And you know, when you're driving through like the little downtown area, it kind of reminds you of like a movie set. So it's perfect. You know, we go cruising on the weekend, and the weekends I have off, and we're cruising around the town. You know, it's kind of like you're back in the 60s or something. You know, it's just a great little town.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Boy, it gets hot down in Florida, doesn't it? In the summer?
Man, the summertime's brutal. I mean, luckily I'm traveling, I'm traveling a lot, so, I'm not here for all of it. But yeah, man, when you take a shower and you dry off, you walk outside, you're out there for 2 minutes and you feel like you're just stepped out of the shower again. I mean, it's pretty bad.
The heat is real in Florida,
Yep,
no doubt about it.
Humidity.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I'll tell you what, I'm so excited to have you on just because of the history. I know so much about you from when you started coming up and whatnot, and it was around the same time as myself, and our paths have crossed multiple times. But through it all, I've always said, number one, Dwight is extremely talented, obviously great voice and look and all that, but one of the nicest human beings in this business, no doubt about it.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you, man.
And very, very funny.
What are you talking about, man?
Was that Irv Cass? Was that a little Irv Cass?
Well, I mean, here's the deal, man. Come on. I mean, I love Irv. Hey, man, Irv was, is, and always will be a legend in this business.
I'm having Irv on. I was trying to get him on before I went on this road trip, but he's been a little under the weather. But here in a few weeks, we're going to have Irv on, no doubt about it. And he is, man. Dude, when I started out, Irv was the man.
I'm telling you. And this is something else me and my wife talk about all the time. She was like, when you were starting out, like who was the guy, the first time you were ever ETA starstruck? And I said, I'll tell you. I said, I was at a place called the Pink Elephant Showroom. You've been there in Marquette, Iowa. You know that place?
Oh, yeah.
Where the stage is like behind the bar, like,
I jumped from that bar or from the stage to the bar into the audience.
Well, yeah, but your legs are 8 feet long. I'd break my neck if I did that. No, but the first time, man, was Irv Cass. Because I had just seen him like on Ricky Lake or something. He was on one of those shows like Ricky Lake or Donahue or something. And I saw Irv Cass and I was like, there he is, man. There's the guy. And I mean, Irv was, along with like Rick Saucedo and all those legendary guys that came before us, Johnny Hara. I mean, but man, Irv, the first time I saw Irv, I couldn't believe it, because I'd seen him on all these television shows and, then there he was.
Yep. And
he beat me. It was a contest and he beat me. I'll never forget it. It was his birthday and he beat me in that contest, but that was the last time. That was the last time he ever beat me.
There you go. I remember him. He would always call me. And he was fundamental in my beginning, no doubt about it, man. I had got dared to enter a contest that he had won the year before. So I met him returning as, the big performer.
Right.
And I was starstruck, and of course, the first thing he says to me, he walks up, he looks at me, how he does that. He goes, well, You sure do look like the SOB.
Yeah, that's classic Irv, man.
Yeah. And from that, there's so
Oh
many
man.
stories I have with that guy. But he called me and he said, "Hey, Ryan, I saw this guy this weekend, man. He's from Ohio. And boy, you know, he's a little guy, but man, he has a big voice."
Yeah.
I said, "What's his name?" He goes, it is Dwight Icenhower.
You'll never believe it, man. You'll never believe it.
And he was just enthralled with you. And he'd always say, "Oh, Dwight, always talked so good about
Yeah,
you."
no, I tell you, in this business, like it's very rare. Back then, it was rare to have ETAs compliment each other or, you know, be chummy. It's really shifted. That part of it has shifted. But Irv was always like, and still is like one of my biggest fans, you know, which is kind of weird to say that, but like he's like really been a huge support. Anytime I got something big going on, he'll call me up or shoot me a text, and I mean that's Irv, man. You know,
Yeah, he's a
great
good
guy.
human. Well, we're going to talk about Irv when I get Irv on, but today I want to
Yeah,
talk
enough
about you.
about him.
Yeah. Hey, growing up, okay, I've always wondered this. Growing up, well, first of all, your name is awesome. Okay, it's a big name
Yeah,
to live up to, obviously.
yeah.
Supreme Allied Commander of the Expeditionary Forces during World War II, and then
Yeah.
President of the United
Probably
States.
one of the most loved presidents of all time. I mean, you know, from everybody, really.
He's the one that warned us against the military-industrial complex on his way out of office. All these different
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But growing up, you're from Southern Ohio.
Southern Ohio.
Was it Dwight or was it D White? Because in the South, a lot of times you'll get the D White.
You know, depending on what, you know, town you were in or whatever. Like my grandma called me D White, D White. So how would you spell that? DEWHAT or something like that. D White.
I like the apostrophe in there, maybe too.
Yeah, yeah, the little
But
yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, but you know, D White, White, White. You know,
the White.
no, but you know,
It's like one syllable though. Really, it's Dwight.
Dwight.
All right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of words with a DW back to back.
Yeah, it's confusing actually. Yeah, people misspell my name all the time, especially my last name. But here lately, I've been noticing people misspell my first name too. They'll go like DEWI, like spell it like DEWHITE, exactly how it sounds, D White. And then when I start throwing the GH in there, they're just all kinds of yeah, mind blown.
Yeah, right.
Mind
and then
blown.
you get to your last name, and everyone thinks it's a EISEN.
Yeah, they think like I'm an exact replica of Dwight Eisenhower. Everything, even my middle name, they think is David. They'll go, "Is your middle name's probably David too, isn't it?" Like, no.
Yeah, that's crazy.
My initials though, I kind of wish my middle name was David because my initials are DWI. So that's yeah.
Yes, right. I got you. Okay. Let me ask you this. Eisenhower, is that German?
It is, yes. I'm German on both sides. My mother's side was Olinger, and my dad's side Eisenhower. So,
okay.
Yeah, German.
Yep. And both Eisenhowers are German background, but
right.
It's different spelling. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. German descent, the one and only Dwight Eisenhower.
Icenhower.
There you go. All right. Go back because I know a little bit about your backstory. You went to Ohio University, correct?
For a very short time I did and you know, this Elvis thing started kicking off. And I thought, hey man, if I'm going to try this, I got to do it while I'm young, you know, and put my best foot forward. But yeah, I did go. I was studying music education. I wanted to be a high school band director.
Right. But prior to that, was there any Elvis in your life, like in high school or anything growing up? Yeah, obviously.
Well, that's
musical.
actually, yeah, my mother, I mean, from the time I have memories at all, like, you know, your first memories when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I remember sitting down with my mother and watching, you know, like when TBS used to have those all day Elvis marathons for like his birthday or the week of his death.
Right.
And we would sit and watch Elvis movies. So I got the love of Elvis from my mother. And she's still a huge Elvis fan. But yeah, I started clear back playing around with Elvis in high school. That's where I kind of started, performing and singing. And the band director, I was in every type of band you could imagine: jazz band, marching band. I was the biggest band nerd that that you have ever met in your life. Like I would skip class and I would go to the band room and play my horn. That's how big of a nerd I was. But I'm proud of it. It taught me so much. And the band director, Tony Dingus, yes, that's his name, Tony Dingus. He 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 had me do a show, a variety show. So when like marching band season was over, we did a performing show. So the whole school would come, the parents and everybody, and he knew I was a huge Elvis fan, so he asked me to play 3 or 4 songs, and I did those songs. And then after that, our football coach came up to me. He said, "I'm getting married next weekend. My soon-to-be mother-in-law's a huge Elvis fan. I want to hire you to come sing to her for my wedding." So that was my first paid, performance, was that.
That's awesome, man. What what instrument did you play in band?
I played trumpet. I was first chair trumpet, marching band.
Do you still play?
It's been a while since I played, but I mean, I could still play. I mean, I pick it up every once in a while, and but it's been since I've seriously played years and years, man. Probably 13, 14 years.
Man, I feel really bad for your band teacher. Imagine being a high school teacher with the name of Mr. Dingus.
Mr. Dingus.
Golly, God bless him. So you're you're obviously musically gifted and you have a musical background. Other instruments? I know you play guitar.
I play rhythm guitar, a little bit of drums. I'm starting to learn piano. I mean, I can play, I can play enough to be the life of a party. If no one else plays, I can get up and play some piano, Jerry Lee stuff. And my goal is to be able to play my Elton John tribute show one day and actually play the piano on as many songs as I can. So that's what I'm working towards.
I got you. All right. So you want to go and you want to become a high school music teacher, and you're the kind of dude in high school who skips class to go play his horn in the music band room.
That's right.
Rebel.
Telling you, man. You didn't mess with me when it came to playing trumpet, man. I'll blow you out of there.
Tell you what, Jack.
I swear to God, man.
So you go to Ohio University and you're doing your thing, but then this Elvis thing comes along. How did it come along exactly?
From the performance I just told you about in high school, that's how it just snowballed, man. And it happened really quick. I mean, this was towards, football lets out December, like November, December.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it was a matter of from like that point until I graduated, that it really started picking up. And I started doing like local things, like the Relay for Life cancer benefit shows and county fairs. And then, man, I just started getting so busy with it to where I was like, I got to do it now. Like if I'm really going to, and I loved it, I loved performing. When I got up on stage in high school and did that, I was hooked, like from that moment. Like I didn't know like, hey, I want to make a career out of this, but I knew that I loved getting up and singing, singing for people.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know it was going to happen like that quick to where I would be getting paid to do shows and have to make that decision. Am I going to do something that I know is going to be okay for me? I'm going to be able to make a living teaching music eventually, or am I going to take this huge gamble basically? Because I didn't know. Yeah. But I said, I love it so much, so I'm just going to go the other way. And I'm glad I did now, because it's been like a crazy whirlwind life, man, for the past 28 years, 29 years.
Yeah. What year was this, by the way, where you started that?
This was like 98, 97, 98.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's right around the same time. It's so interesting to me because during that time, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a little bit in the Chicago area because you had Trent Carlini, you had Rick Cicito, you had, Dan Lentino was there as well.
Right.
Johnny Spence, Expense Account Band, all that stuff going on in the Chicago area. And then you had this South Bend, Indiana thing with Doug Church, Irv Cass, kind of a thing, but it was like that area, and that also included like Portage,
Right.
whatnot. But that area is the only area that I know of that was like, it was like the place. And if you couldn't get there, you would just be like maybe a local hometown favorite. You would never get beyond it.
Yeah, that's where like all of the Elvis ETA action was happening, was that, that area. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, like West Coast really didn't have any, I mean, that I knew of, I knew of a few like down in Florida, but that was way before I moved to Florida. But there were a few down there, like what was the guy's name? Rick Marino. Remember Rick Marino? He was like one of those legendary guys of, that era. But that area, man, Ohio, Indiana, that's where it all was. I mean, that actually Portage was one of the first like ETA festivals where there were multiple Elvis guys. That's one of the first things that I remember going to was Kay and Paul Lip's Portage Fantasy Fest.
Yep.
I know you've been there many times.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. Like I remember starting out and, it would be Irv or it would be somewhere. And sometimes, it was just like little gigs like the Mason Bowling Alley to a track show, but it would be packed.
Yeah.
You'd walk away with, $1,000 in your pocket or whatever. And it was just like, wow, this is back in, the late 90s where like $1,000 is not.
Oh shoot, man. If we were making $1,000, I don't know what I would have done to make $1,000 in 1999. I mean, my first gig, the one I was telling you about, where the varsity football coach came and at the end of the performance and hired me, he asked me what I charged. I had never had a gig before. I had no clue. I think I made like $125 or something, which, when you're in high school, $125, that's,
Yeah.
That was great. I was like, man, if I can do this every day of the week,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's back during a time, I think, where like minimum wage was, I don't know, $3-4 or something.
Yeah. $2.50 or $3 or something.
Yeah. So that's kind of crazy, man.
But yeah, man, I remember going to those early events like Portage and what's some of the other ones that was happening. Of course, Ronnie's Elvis Explosion and I mean, those are the ones where I met like all of like what would my future like best friends, like Robert Washington, it's like talk about legend, man. Robert Washington is just, he was like my vocal idol. Robert was. Yeah, like I remember the first time I met Robert, it was actually under the tent when they used to have the tent in Memphis.
Right.
And I thought it was Elvis. I heard them playing like maybe like Inherit the Wind or one of those rare 69 songs. And I was like, man, that sounds too clear. That's someone singing. So I was trying to find where it was coming from. And I walked down there and it was Robert Washington. It was the first time I ever saw him. And man, he blew my mind, still does. I mean, the guy's what, 65, 66 and still out singing everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's a sweetheart, man.
Great guy.
I texted him. He's another one that's going to be coming on. I texted him and we text every so often and
cool.
He still got the little flip phone,
Yeah.
I'll have to,
no, he upgraded. He doesn't have the flip anymore.
Are you kidding me?
No, I swear. He said my fingers are getting too fat. I can't tap on it.
That's exactly what he said.
That's
exactly.
He said, I had to get it. Can't do it, Dwight. This is what we do, man. For those of you watching right now, we all know that we do it. It's not like we're doing it behind each other's back. We all impersonate each other in front of each other. Like Ryan does a great impersonation of me walking. That's all he can do to impersonate me is walk.
That's
it. It looks like me. It does. And I asked you one time, I said, is that really what I look like walking? You're like, yeah, man.
It's a very positive, just, it's just kind of bouncy. And
it's a happy looking walk. It's not like I'm like moping around,
No. Yeah. So we've already got Irv Cass in here. We've already got Robert Washington. I'm sure someone else will come up here along the way.
Oh,
yeah. But Robert's response was, "Oh yeah, man, I want to come on." We got to figure out a phone and or
Yeah.
internet and everything else with them, but it'll
Yeah,
be awesome.
yeah, you're gonna have to. That might take 2 months for him to figure that one out. Because I tell you, I'm not very technical, but I did figure it out. I figured out the Zoom thing. But Robert, I can't even imagine, man. I would have to probably fly there and say, "This is what I did, man. I just hit this button right here."
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So through it all, man, you kind of, this is outside looking in, and tell me if I'm wrong in saying this. There was a moment uh, in this business where I feel like your paradigm changed, and I don't mean this in a bad way.
Yeah,
Not just your paradigm, but you as a person. Because I know early on you were this, this awesome performer, and it was that way for quite some time. And we didn't get the chance to see each other all that often. When we did, everything was great. You were always amazing on stage and whatnot. But there was a moment where I saw you, and then the next time I saw you, something was different. Um, and I can't put a finger on it. It's a positive thing too. It's just
right.
there's over your career, it seems like you have gone through certain phases and things in your life have changed your paradigm, who you are. And I mean, if you can talk a little bit about some of that.
Yeah, man.
I'd love to.
Well, I mean, we're all crazy in the early days, man. We're all hanging out and waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning after staying up at till 4:30 in the morning. Then we have to get up and sing gospel. I mean, a lot of that's changed. I don't do that anymore. I mean, I'm definitely more cautious about taking care of myself and being more responsible. And the partying days are are behind me. I mean, I'll still hang out and party with people. I just don't. I've just kind of put that part of I've done enough of that in my life to keep the drinking and all that stuff out of my way anyhow, because it just it was never a good thing for me, and I learned how to control it and just be able to be around people and still have a good time,
Right.
without having to drink,
Right. Alcohol is a thing that is yeah, you'll see it can become it's a fun thing that can become a burden for sure. And
yeah, and it starts getting in the way of everything, really. I mean, if you don't catch it, at the right time, you got to know, like, hey, it's either this and be happy, or continue to do what you're doing and be miserable. You know what I mean? So I'm glad I did it. But I would say that's probably the biggest change since back in the days when like we were hanging out and before I got busy traveling and you doing what I mean, you've done a million things since the early days. But yeah, that's the big change, of course, that I've made for sure.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And I think too, it's so interesting how here in less than a week, I'm going to be 52 years old.
That's amazing, man.
And it's so crazy how fast it all goes, man.
I was just saying that, man. It's like it literally seems like that the performance I was telling you about when I was in high school, that first, there's no way that was pushing 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't even seem real that it was that long ago, or even like I look back and I'm like, I won the ultimate in 2016. And it just seems like 2 or 3 years ago to me, but it's like, God, man, time is just like nothing anymore. Like a year is like 3 months.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But,
and I mean, that's a blessing, but in some ways it's just like, you don't notice in the moment, I think, the changes that take place in your life.
Right.
As much as you do when you stop to reflect on, like you just did, winning the ultimate, seems like not that long ago, but yeah, it's been close to 10 years now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that we go through it, but man, it's so funny how your paradigm changes as you get older, not just in this business, I think, but probably just in general, start taking care of your health, your body, things that you started or used to do, maybe you shouldn't do anymore. And
Right.
to be fair, some things that you used to do and love, you can't do anymore because of, arthritis and all kinds of stuff, or can't
Yeah,
do it to
man.
the same degree.
Yep. And it's there's people like that I haven't talked to in years, just for whatever reason. I mean, never any problem with people or anything like that. But it's like the thing about this Elvis business is it's like we understand that we all get busy, but it's when the in the Elvis world, it's kind of cool because when we all get together, like I hadn't seen Matt Joyce for a long time until we were in lacrosse a couple years back, or last year actually. Was it last year?
Yeah.
When we were there?
No, not last year, the year before.
Year before.
Yeah.
But like, but it's like nothing ever changed. We're just there. We're talking, and I mean, you guys were crazy busy in lacrosse. I mean, you guys were everywhere filming. But just that's the thing about the Elvis world, the ETA world, is we all come back together, and it's like we've been hanging out for all these years when really it's been a long time.
Yeah, there is a special brotherhood that I've always noticed. Even back in the day, and this is my opinion. I don't know. This is my opinion. I think people are different now. I'm kind of a Gen Xer. And the younger generation now, they're different in the way they deal with things. And they obviously have a different way of seeing the world. They grew up with the internet, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things out there that cause all kinds of differences in just the way you perceive the world. But I always thought back in the day when I first started, guys, we would always get together and there would be a brotherhood, but didn't mean that everyone liked you. And you would know if someone didn't like you for whatever reason.
Right.
But it didn't mean that you still couldn't hang out and at least on the surface be cool,
Right. Yeah.
But
And
nowadays, I feel like everyone, it's like a kumbaya, and there still exists that tension sometimes between two people, but it's like, but you would never ever admit it. You know what I mean? It's like weird. It's a politeness now, as opposed to back in the day. It was like, I don't really like you, but yeah, we'll hang out. You know?
Yeah. And I tell stories like when I'm in a room full of like the young up and coming guys, I'll be talking about like stuff me and Irv or whoever back in the day, and it's so funny, like I'm that guy now. You know what I mean? Like I'm the Irv. I'm like I'll have young guys come up to me and go, "Hello, Mr. Eisenhower. It's nice. Oh my gosh, I've watched you since I was 9 years old." And I'm like, I'm the Irv now. Like I'm that guy. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I not until recently did I think of myself that I'm that guy now.
Yes.
But it happens more and more. Like more of these things that I go to, the younger ETAs will come up to me, and there's this one thing that I do in my show where I'll go on CC Rider, where I'll go, like when it gets real soft, I'll go, I said A, I said B, I said C. I'll go back into it. And this little kid comes up to me, he says, hey, Mr. Eisenhower, he said, when I go up here and sing this karaoke song, he said, I want you to listen because I'm going to do something for you. I said, okay. So he got up there, and a little kid, 6, 7 years old, starts singing CC Rider, and it comes to that part, and he says, I said A, I said B. So I was like, that was funny, man. But yeah, kids come up to me all the time, and it actually feels good. It doesn't make me feel like, oh man, I'm an old man in this business. Like it really, like it was cool,
Yeah.
that I'm that guy now. It's like a progression, it's like, like Kevin Mills and Irv Cass, Robert Washington. Those were my guys when I was a kid starting out in this.
Right.
And now I'm that guy. So that's cool, man.
I think it's fun too to hear. You'll hear it a lot with the younger guys, with guys like Dean Z. Dean is this bigger than life, very physically moves a lot.
Oh yeah.
Dramatic movements. So there's a lot of young guys who want to emulate stuff that like Dean does, you know.
Yeah.
And they'll say, "Oh man, I'm doing Jailhouse Rock," and that's how Dean did it. I'm doing the Dean Z version.
The Dean version, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because actually when me and Dean get together, we talk about that. We're like, do you ever notice how like there's a lot of like Dean, Dwight, and Cody impersonators now? Like a lot of these guys are, and they're doing, you know, like Dean's moves, my style, the way I dress, like with the you know, the sparkle jackets and the way that because several guys started doing that, but I want to say, and you know, you can keep this in there. I think I was the first guy to do it.
I think you were
to transition the way ETAs dress on stage. Some guys say they did it, but I
think you did it. And it was okay when you did it. I think other guys might have done it, but I don't think it was okay.
Yes, that's what I mean. I think I kind of made, like, when they saw that I was doing it, they were like, okay, I want to get that jacket he's got on. I want, you know, and then I start seeing like people showing up in the exact outfit that I'm wearing, you know, which is kind of a compliment, you know.
Well, but it is kind of funny that not everyone can do what you do.
Right.
You can do what you do because you have an incredible voice. You're an incredible entertainer. Your reputation and you have clout. But not everyone can do what you do and have it come off in the right way. If you know what I mean.
Right. I thought about like coming up with just a crazy, just something that was so hideous just to see if someone would do it.
Right.
Like try to copy it. You know what I mean? Like something that like was like an Elton and Elvis hybrid. You know, like Elvis with fringe on it, but like feathers on, I don't know. Just something weird. Like just to see if like I showed up next week and somebody else had that outfit.
That'd be awesome.
I might be awesome.
Or just maybe a jumpsuit with some Elton glasses, like Elvis glasses, but with feathers, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like the aviators with like, yeah, I could do that. Hey, you know, like you even started doing something with the jumpsuits back in the day. I remember a classic photo of you in like this black, you're like standing there, you look like a matador. You're like in this black jumpsuit with like tassels.
Epaulets. Yep.
Yeah, it had like tassels here, and like it was like a hybrid of like all the different jumpsuits. It had conchos on it, fringe.
Can I tell you a little story about that?
Yeah, what's that?
That was my first jumpsuit.
Oh, really?
And guess who gave it to me?
I'm just going to take a guess, and this is only because of what we've kind of talked about. Tony
Roy.
Yeah, I could only imagine him doing it because he was so out of the box.
Yeah,
with his tribute that I could imagine him wearing that. Yeah.
So I was filling in for him at Legends in Concert in Branson. All right, and I was just doing 50s. That's all I ever did. And Rob Horton, said, "Man, we got to get you in the jumpsuit. We got to get you in the jumpsuit." And Tony had left 2 jumpsuits in the dressing room, and Tony said, or Rob called Tony and said, "Hey, would you mind if Ryan wore one of your jumpsuits to just see if he could make it work?"
Right.
You know? And Tony's like, "Oh yeah, B man, no problem, man." You know? And so the one was sky blue, electric sky blue, kind of like the blue behind me here. Electric sky blue spandex.
Oh,
okay.
That's pure Tony Roy.
And it zipped up to like just maybe a centimeter above your navel, you know.
Yeah.
And and I felt so self-conscious wearing it. Yeah. The other one was this black one that you saw, and it made it into like that special episode of TV Guide, the biggest picture in the thing.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I saw that picture. Yeah.
And I think Irv Cass referred to it as the Captain Crunch because of the epaulets on the shoulders.
You look like Captain Crunch, man. You look like Captain Crunch.
Yeah. And anyways, I like that jumpsuit, and I went to leave and I told him, hey man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll pay to have it cleaned or whatever you need. He goes, you know what, B, just take it, man. Pay it forward.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
and so the next gig I had was filling in for Graham Patrick in Las Vegas. And so I wore a jumpsuit, and that was a jumpsuit I wore. And that's where that photo shoot
That's
happened.
the photo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it was
man.
kind of a cool thing. I loved that jumpsuit, man. It was just so, just different, you know?
Yeah, I know. I thought it was really cool, and I really liked the gold, like how the gold it was like a hybrid, had conchos, gold chains on it.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah,
Had big,
I
huge
only met
diamonds,
Tony. What's that?
big, huge diamonds on it. And like the belt.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just crazy. Yeah.
it's
It's cool.
crazy. But I only met Tony once. I was playing in Branson, um, filling it. What I was filling in for you, I think.
Might have been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I came to Branson. You had gone somewhere, and I it was one of those times I filled in for you. But I met Tony at like the after. So like when all the shows let out, everyone met at this one venue. I can't remember the name of it, but like all the band members from other shows would meet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a
I don't
number
remember
of
the name of
places.
it. Yeah, it was
There,
like a club or something. But
yeah.
Tony was there, and he came up to me. He's like, are you Dwight? He's like, hey man, welcome to town, man. He was like really cool. He was really sweet, and I didn't know a lot about. I mean, I knew obviously who Tony Roy was, but I had never seen him in person or anything. But he was really cool, and I've always loved going back and watching his videos. And I mean, there's something different about watching those old school guys than even like our era. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just a different. I don't know. I don't even know how to. It's like they didn't have all the knowledge we had, so they just had to do what was entertaining to them, like what the way they wanted to entertain, and it was something different.
Right. And
Um,
I think there was a higher bar too back then. And I'll tell you why. Because if you think about this, back then, you were closer, much closer to Elvis passing away and his music. So,
right.
and so I think the bar was there. Whereas now I feel like um, Elvis is almost a myth. You know what I mean? It's like this
Yep.
combination of thoughts and stories and opinions and books and and then you get all the ETA influence on it. And
Right.
and then fans who are fans of ETAs versus Elvis itself, it's like it's all become this muddy myth versus the
Yes.
real thing.
Right. You hit it right on the head, man. As it's like the guy, especially guys like Saucedo and I mean Johnny Hare, those guys were doing Elvis when Elvis was doing Elvis.
Yeah.
I mean Elvis was still alive when Rick Saucedo and Johnny Hare were doing shows.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, over time, I think the lines of what Elvis actually did and ETAs, it's so intertwined now, and it's like I hope, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's just different than what it was when we
Yeah.
were first starting.
Right.
And I always try. I mean, people that see my shows, they know that I'm Dwight Icenhower doing Elvis material. Like
Right.
I never get up there and go, this is the closest thing you're ever going to see the king. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just me. I'm just having fun and doing the show the way that entertains me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If I'm having fun, I know they're going to have fun. That's
Right.
the way I kind of approach it. But yeah, it's sometimes I'll go, man, it has gone so far from Elvis that it's like, like if it keeps going that way, it's like maybe there's not even going to be Elvis songs anymore. Like it's
Right.
just people with black hair and sideburns. Like I don't know. But and like I said, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I've got young friends in this business who are phenomenal entertainers, but it's just a lot different than what it was when I started. When I started doing this.
Yeah. It is much different. I find that people who I interview, that's something that everyone says how it's changed. It's different.
Yeah. I mean, even I'll even have some of the fans come up, and this is one that I kind of understand, but then again, it's kind of like contradictory. It's like a lady came up to me one time and she was like, "Oh, I'm not an Elvis fan. I'm an ETA fan." I'm like, "So let me get this straight. You're a fan of a guy who is singing the songs of the actual guy and looking like, trying to look like the actual guy, but you don't like the actual guy."
That's crazy.
I can't in my brain. Yes. That's
Yeah,
the third time we've done that. Our minds have been blown on this.
that's crazy. Yeah, I've never heard that
I
one
mean,
yet.
that doesn't make sense to me. It just
No,
doesn't make any sense. Like how you can be a fan of. I'm glad that they're
sure,
fans. Like I'm grateful, but I, yeah, I guess in my own brain, I'm just trying to make sense of it.
I get you.
Yeah.
So your experience though has led to a very what I imagine is very nice, comfortable lifestyle. You get to every time you perform, it's pretty much going to be headlining or your own shows for major festivals and shows all over the world.
Yeah.
You probably have a little bit of local stuff that you do in the Florida area as well, where you've got that nice income where you can just kind of be at home, sleep in your own bed, sort of stuff.
Yeah. I've been, man, I've been blessed and lucky and all of those great, I've had a lot of great stuff happen to me. And, you know, to be able to, and now in one way that I'm a lot different than what I used to be is like, I love being home. Like we just bought our house. We've been in our house now for like a year and a half. We found a 100-year-old lake home here in Winter Haven, and it's just like, I almost actually, Ryan, I thought about it, but I almost did my interview in my pajamas because I don't get out of my pajamas when I'm home and I'm off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I have a down day, I'm just like I'm in my pajamas all day, and I thought maybe I'll wear my pajamas today, but yeah. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, I love being home now. Just and I do a lot of Florida shows. Like from January to April is snowbird season down here. Actually, from October to April. But yeah, I do a lot of Florida shows, so I can go do the show. And no show that I do here is any more than a couple hours from home. So I'll do the show, come back, sleep in my own bed. It's great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
And in addition to obviously the Elvis performance stuff, now you're doing the Elton John stuff, of which I've seen it, man. It's incredible. It's awesome.
Thank you, man. And I love doing it. I mean, people that know me know I'm a huge Elton fan. I've seen Elton in concert 116 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I started seeing him in the late 90s, and one summer I saw him 12 times in the early 2000s. But yeah, I've seen him 116 times, and I sat front row for one of the concerts, and I got to shake his hand. And it amazed me. Most piano players have really long, slender fingers, so they can play really,
Yeah.
And I shook Elton John's hand, and first of all, the thing that I noticed was his hand was like a rock, just like he shook my hand, and it was like crushing my hand.
Right.
But he had these little, like tiny, like big around fingers. Yeah, it was weird, for a piano player.
Sausage fingers.
Yeah, like little Vienna sausages. Yeah, it was weird. But I just remember when he grabbed my hand, I was like, "Gah,"
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, huge Elton John fan. I wish I could do more Elton John shows. Like I don't do nearly as many Elton shows as I do Elvis, of course. But I'm hoping that at some point it can get to where it's like half and half. Like I'm doing half Elton shows, half Elvis,
Yeah.
because I love it.
I
Yeah,
get it, man.
it's kind of like an alternate, not an alternate character, but like a what am I trying to say? Like a
Alter
alter
ego.
ego. Yes, alter ego for me.
Yeah.
And it's something that's totally out of my comfort zone. But like when I put the stuff on, it's just like something takes over. It's I'm calling people bitch on stage and stuff. It's great. I would never do that as Dwight Eisenhower. Yeah.
Oh Lord. Maybe Irv Cass needs to perform as.
Oh,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
would be a great Elton John, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
I do love his Tom Jones though.
I do too,
Love her.
man.
I
I
love
do.
her as Tom Jones. I love when we get to do that and I can, just sit back and watch him do his thing because now, his Elvis days, and he'll tell you this himself, he doesn't see himself doing Elvis anymore, but he can still do Tom Jones and he's got like a great just when he's up there, like his persona is very Tom Jones.
No,
I've tried to do Tom Jones. I can sing the Tom Jones stuff, but you have to have a certain personality to pull that character off, and Irv definitely has that personality.
yep, yep. There's a little bit of Tom Jones and Irv Cass. There's a little bit of Tom Jones and Tony Roy.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Tom Jones and Tony Roy, man. I would have loved to have heard Tony Roy do some Tom Jones. I've never heard it. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he did Tom Jones songs, but I think he could blow the roof off doing Tom Jones, man.
I
He
think
had that
Tony,
husky,
yeah,
that raspy,
he could.
soulful sound.
I think Tony Roy could blow the doors off of just about anything he wanted to.
Yeah,
Vocally.
absolutely.
Yeah. Even it's so
That's
funny. Doug Church, voice of Elvis, he even says,
Yeah.
man, Tony's awesome. But
Oh, yeah, man. I love watching those old videos. There's one video of him like in Collingwood or something, and he's got that suit on. He's got the suit, the one we were talking about with the stuff on it, the black
Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch suit. He's got that on, and man, he goes down and he does one of these Tom Jones moves, and he's licking his lips and the women are just going nuts. Yeah, but I'm like, man, this is like the coolest thing ever. The two coolest entertainers that ever lived, Elvis and Tom Jones, and it's right there, like he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
God bless him, man.
That's awesome. That's the first time I saw Tony Roy. It's like, well, that guy's not doing Elvis. And this is the most entertaining thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, at a
That's it.
time when, because I remember going, if a guy wasn't that great and he was not doing a good Elvis, I'd be like, man, this guy, look at him. He thinks he's Elvis, but like with Tony Roy, it was different because he was that good. Like if he hadn't been good and he was just up there going, "Come here, baby, let me lick my lips," it's like then I wouldn't have been so like blown away by this guy. But he could sing, he was good looking, he could move, and he just put it all together, man. And he was an entertainer. Like
Yeah.
I think Tony Roy actually was like that guy back in the day when everyone was an Elvis purist. I think maybe he was one of those first guys that was like, okay, now here it is. This is what I do, and
Yeah.
made it cool,
Yeah.
Because I've seen Tony do strict Elvis, like when he was on David Letterman or whatever that was. He was on one of those shows, and he had the Aloha suit with the big sideburns and the Elvis hair, and he was doing Elvis. But then, like something, I think in everyone's career, like at some point, something transitions and they become something else. And I think that was his. That was his. He was like, I'm a huge Tom Jones fan. I'm a huge Elvis fan. Let's just put it together and see what happens. And Tony Roy happened, man, because he was something else.
A little bit of Engelbert Humperdinck in there too.
Yeah, a little bit of all those guys, really, if you think about it.
Something special. Well, let me ask you a couple quick draw questions here.
All right.
Learn a little bit
Fire away.
quick about the one and only Dwight Eisenhower. Favorite, and I'll say this two ways: favorite Elvis song, but favorite song to perform versus favorite song, period, just to listen to.
Favorite Elvis song, Are You Lonesome Tonight? Favorite song to perform here lately has been like If I Can Dream. That song, this past weekend I did a song called We Can Make the Morning.
That's great.
I mean, I know you know that song, and I don't do it a lot. So I've been getting into more of those rare,
I know that song from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in Cherokee.
Oh yeah, Harris Cherokee.
Yep, that was a contest there. You got first, I got second. We both went to the ultimate, and I think you got second and I got third that year. And David Lee won.
That's probably the last time I did that song, because I was trying to think the other day, like when did I sing this last? It's been so long.
We were in the hotel room, and with the acoustic guitar, Ted Torres was there.
Was Eddie Miles there?
I don't think Eddie Miles was there.
I remember one of those Harris Cherokee, Eddie Miles was there. And it was the first time I'd seen Eddie Miles too. He's another one, man,
Yeah.
that like when you saw Eddie Miles, like he just had that look, you know.
Yeah.
Legendary,
Yep.
legendary guy, man. All those guys.
Yep. Did you see him
And
with
I
the gray
think,
hair?
yeah. And
That's
when I see him, I'm
wild.
like, that's what Elvis would have looked like, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you see that white hair, and his hair is like the same as Elvis's, like the texture of it and everything. So when I look at him, I'm like, man, that's probably what Elvis would have looked like at 65 or 70.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
But you know, going back, just real, not to take away from what you're doing here, but like I think that's one thing that some of the younger ETAs, I wish, because some of them don't even know these guys. They don't even know what an Eddie Miles or a Rick Saucedo or Johnny Hare or those guys that are no longer doing it. But like those were the guys, man. You know, I think everybody should go back and check up on those guys, you know?
That's part of the reason I started ETA Files. Because I want to have those cats on. And ironically enough, next week Tony Roy will be on. So
oh my gosh, I want to see that.
yeah,
I want
check
to
it
see
out.
that. Yeah.
What's the best part? The best part of being an Elvis tribute artist?
Just, you know, being able to live out your Elvis rock and roll fantasy on stage. I mean, just, you know, that's it. I mean, honestly, like when I go over to Europe, it's my favorite tour that I do is this European tour. I mean, we get to play with the guys that worked with Elvis. I mean, throughout the years, we played with like the Sweets, Jim Murray of the Imperials, Bob Lanning, which was like the Bigfoot of the Elvis world. No one knew where this guy went. He went missing for like 40 years in the Elvis world, but he's the drummer on Elvis on Stage. Like all of those, the On Stage album, Elvis 1970. He played on the original version of The Wonder of You, the original live version of Polk Salad Annie, and everyone thought it was Ronnie Tutt, and it wasn't. It was this guy named Bob Lanning, and he's been our drummer for the past 11 years now over in Europe.
Wow. That's awesome.
So like just to work with those guys and to be on stage and singing these songs that I've loved since I was 5, you know, it's like that's my favorite part of it. Just doing the job of it. And it's not a job. I mean, right. Yes, this is what I do for a living, but I love it. You know, I really enjoy what I do.
Well, then conversely, what's the worst part of being an Elvis tribute artist?
Traveling.
There you go.
Traveling, man. Like Australia, I love it. I absolutely love going over there and performing. The fans are great, beautiful, beautiful country. But just like the 31-hour ordeal from the time you leave your house until you get to the hotel room or wherever you're going in Australia or Japan, you know, it's the travel. It wears me out. It didn't used to, but now that I got my house here and I'm walking around in my pajamas 24/7 when I have a day off, I miss that, you know, I miss being home. And
yeah, it's awkward going through the TSA too with pajamas on. They just
yeah.
Yeah. Awkward. If you could meet Elvis, if Elvis was here right now, what would you say to him?
Okay, so like if Elvis were here in his prime, or like if he were here as an old 90-year-old Elvis.
Yeah, if he was just whatever you want, really. But if he was here, say like it's just the ghost of Elvis is here in his prime. What would you say to him?
I probably would say, knowing what we know now, just slow down and take care of yourself. And, you know, we all want to see you get healthy.
Yeah.
We want to see what the 80s would have, you know, what Elvis would have been like in the 80s. You know, I and of course, thank you. But I mean, I think I would really want to just tell him to slow down and get a grip, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, when you look at Tom Jones, perfect example. There's a time where Tom Jones was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And something happened. He made some changes.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, he came out the gate. he came out the gate looking and sounding better than ever. And I mean,
Yeah, and still does.
and that's what's so incredible and why I get so, it's sad, man. It's really sad.
Yeah, I do. I get, we saw Tom Jones not long ago with Van Morrison at the Hollywood Bowl. And Tom Jones came out there, man, and just looked like Tom Jones, but like a distinguished older gentleman, Tom Jones. And he came out there and opened his mouth and just blew the roof off the place. And several times during that night, I was like, this could have been Elvis. Like, if someone just would have, and I'm not saying people didn't try to help him, but if someone could have got through to him or it's a shame that we couldn't see Elvis past 42. I mean, it's like the ultimate slap in the face to everybody,
Yeah. And that is so young.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I have lived 1 year longer than what Elvis lived. And I still feel like I've got, a long time ahead of me, hopefully. And it's like, I can't imagine checking out last year.
Yeah.
I
remember the day. So my birthday's 4 days after Elvis's, and based upon estimated time and whatnot of not only that, but his death and everything. On the sixth, actually it was the 20th of August, when I was 42.
Yeah.
I knew that there was probably a range of an hour or so that
right.
I would be the exact same, age that he was when he died. I was actually running. Going on about a 10-mile run that day. And it just, the whole time I was just thinking about it, man. Here I am, and I was at that point close to, not the prime, but I was in great shape and everything. And it's just a shame how it all came to an end. No doubt about it.
Right. And, I think about that too. It's like you don't realize how fast time goes until you are a certain age, because it does fly past. Like I remember like thinking like when I was like mid 30s, how fast things started happening.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like it's almost another 10 years later.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's like Elvis did so much I think about that all the time. I'm like, you think of Elvis's career as being like a long time frame between That's All Right Mama and Madison Square Garden or CBS Special. It wasn't. Like, can you imagine doing all of that in 20, basically, I mean, just a little over 20 years?
Not to mention think what you want about the movies, but throw in this, however many movies it was in the middle of it.
I mean, the movies was the biggest part of Elvis's career.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. And whether you love him or hate him, I mean, the movies was a huge part of Elvis. And that's actually the way that many people got to even know who Elvis was through the movies.
Right.
So I always look up when I think about the movies. I think of it as a positive thing. I know to Elvis it was a bummer, but
they're campy as can be. But man, you want to just watch something and not have all the weight of the world surrounding you and pushing you down. And
exactly, we can all find an Elvis movie that makes us laugh or has great songs. Some of them do. They have great songs in them. And I still do some of them in my shows even.
Yep. And some of the speeches, especially in the early ones, I love.
Yeah.
The principal
so
one,
dramatic.
the principal one from King Creole, when he's talking to the principal.
Oh yeah.
It's not working before school; it's working after.
That's right.
Stuff.
My favorite one is when he says, "I usually get paid for singing as a rule. I figure you ought to do what you do for me. How about coming outside and putting this seat covers in my car, huh?"
And you're the one who got me motivated, and I learned it completely. After, and it was that same weekend in Cherokee. Well, I got sick here at the hotel. I had hundreds of tipsters. They wouldn't let me perform.
They wouldn't let me perform from 3 different sources that I heard. Oh man, you have to edit this one.
No, that's kind of funny.
No, keep it in.
It's a real moment though. It's a real moment.
You know, my favorite part of that rant though is when he's finally calmed down and they're clapping for him. And then he goes, hey, how many of you saw the movie Blue Hawaii?
Yes. So I'll do that sometimes. When I close with Can't Help Falling in Love for Legends.
Yeah, you'll say how many.
I'll go, how many people know the movie Blue Hawaii, or whatever. I'll do it and laugh. The piano player will laugh. It's funny, but anyways. Well, dude, I tell you, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome.
Man.
Just kind of go down memory lane and hearing some great stories about you.
Yeah, man. When you texted me the other day, I was like, I was so excited to do this, man. Thank you.
That's awesome. How can people get in touch with you as far as following you on social media, website, all that stuff, and find out?
Dwight Icenhower ETA on Instagram, Dwight Icenhower Fans on Facebook, and Dwight Icenhower Official Fan Club on Facebook. And it's a lot of us have been having problems here lately with Facebook. There's been so many of us that had our pages stripped from Facebook. And that happened to me, my friend Ben Thompson, Emilio Santoro. There's been a bunch of us that Facebook took down our page out of nowhere and told us that, that we're going against their their guidelines on impersonation. Like we're trying to make people believe we're the actual 90-year-old Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
And so they took my page down. So I lost like 20,000 followers. So it's basically like starting over my internet presence again, really.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build my pages back up, but that's how you can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. Well, help Dwight out, for crying out loud. Get that blue check mark if you haven't. Get it, the blue check mark.
I'm trying everything, but they're just fighting me on it. But we'll see.
I got you, man.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, check this dude out online. Go see him. He is incredible, and he's an awesome friend. Thank you for joining me. The one and only.
Ryan, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Dwight Icenhower. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the ETA Files community. And if you're looking for something a little different, be sure to stop by my podcast, The Ryan Files. Keep rocking, my friends, and I'll see you next week with another story from the Elvis Tribute Artist world. In the meantime, check out these video links below.